I'm Brian Chambers from Frankfurt. Jared reached out to me, asked me if I could help out for this edition, so here I am. Let's get right to it. You guys posted questions, so I dug through, see what I could answer, what I can't. I'm probably going to mess up names, and excuse me for my dull background. Sal Saldian asked, what are some things about Star Citizen that has drawn yourself and so many other talented people to the Frankfurt studio to work on this project? From your perspective as a studio lead, has the crowdfunding model been a hurdle to overcome in regards to headhunting talent? First of all, it'll sound like a fluff piece, but it's not. So honestly, having doing this for quite a while, the ambition behind this project and the commitment behind all the senior staff, Chris and Aaron and the whole team, what they're able to pull together with the community, and also them wanting, pushing boundaries technically on design, kind of forging some new ground in my opinion and others. It's really kind of what pulled us here to, take a look, and, 18 months later, here we are still working and pushing on things. In regards to the crowdfunding, honestly, I don't think it's hurt at all. It's actually, it gets us noticed from time to time, obviously, from the amount that we've crowdfunded, and that draws people's attention, which is great. It gives us a little bit more exposure, and people kind of know who we are. I do get questioned occasionally from candidates in regards to crowdfunding and what does that mean, and the finances and so on. And I take the time to explain the detail, what we're doing day to day, month to month, midterm, long term, etc. So the most I say would impact is, they want to know that things are secure if they're going to join us as a team, because it's, for these guys here, we're hiring guys that are experienced and do this for a living, and it's their career per se. Osmosis asks, what are the advantages and disadvantages of working with 4 separate satellite studios in 4 separate time zones as compared to one centralized studio? I think the biggest hurdle, honestly, is communication. On the production side, on the senior level, across all sides, we need to make sure that the communication is as solid as possible, and that we're communicating in a way that all the people that need to know the information understand where to go and how to get the information, if they have questions. That's something that I think we're constantly on the production side looking at and reevaluating. I don't think that there's, honestly, and it's my opinion, I don't think there's any one perfect model to it of how to do it or how not to do it. But it's putting things in place, having the flexibility to adjust them as they needed or need to be. We've done a pretty good job so far, and we've made a good amount of changes even since Frankfurt's been involved. Stuff been driven by the UK, with Aaron stepping up and kind of overseeing all the studios on the production level. It's really kind of pulled stuff together, so we're all speaking the same language. It's definitely sometimes, though, frustrating. I'll get emails at 2 in the morning. I'll need questions answered when people are asleep in LA. So it definitely has some disadvantages. But at the same time, it also evens itself out, because work is being done almost on a 24-hour basis, to some extent, which keeps things churning. So, we'll leave here at night in Frankfurt and come back in the morning, and we'll have seen progress and had things checked in and so on, from LA or Austin that are kind of vital for us moving forward. Daz writes, hi Brian, can you explain a bit about your process for creating the first procedural location and what look and feel you are aiming for? I get asked a lot on the procedural planets, and rightfully so, because it's cool stuff, and I think we made some progress that people weren't expecting and kind of dumped it on people in that live stream, which was pretty awesome to do. The first procedural planet really had nothing to do with aesthetics. Hey, what were we trying to pull off aesthetically? Nothing, to be honest with you. It was just about proving tech. So textures were pulled in. of a certain memory footprint that we knew we would most likely have, and then the tech was just pushed until we got that up and running. After those first steps, then we had an environment artist 100% dedicated to working with all of the tech guys and engineers that were pushing on the procedural planets. They need to sort out the best approach on how to get rid of the seams, how to make those non-existent, what limitations and parameters should or shouldn't be set, on and on and on. There's so much detail that's going into that. And that work is honestly right now, as of this moment, going on to some extent, but a huge progress is being made. We've already done tests with different types of geometry and different types of look and different type of atmospherics to really see that we can come up with. One thing that was interesting is Pascal, our environment artist that was working on stuff, he had been playing with this one planet. Now, mind you, it's huge. For a good amount of time, a couple weeks, I think. And there was one point he kind of made some noise, and some of the guys had come over and looked. He had actually seen something like a new formation that he hadn't seen, although he'd been looking at this thing for weeks. In getting to a new part, he had seen a new formation that looked really, really cool, but was completely unique to anything else he had seen over the last couple of weeks. And that's cool. That's telling us that the parameters there are working. It's keeping things new. It's keeping things random, but still staying within the guidelines that the tech is putting forward. War Dog, how will the definition of procedural planet generation work? Is it only a set of random seeds, or will an artist define where land and water is, and the algorithm seed will only define the shape of the coast and the land, mountains, river, etc.? Honestly, it's a bit of both. First we go, cool, what type of planet do we want? What are we generating? And then we'll obviously adjust the parameters based off of that planet for what we would like procedurally generated. At the same time, during the process, we can guide it as specific as we need. There's a lot of artist control over there, and I think that's essential because we want people to come and have certain experiences on these planets. So not only can we define and create new parameters for each type of terrain or even each type of gameplay that's going to go in there, but then the artist can go through and have really fine level control. We want, in a sense, we want to focus more on the quality and then the quantity. You're going to have a tremendous amount of quantity, and I think you're going to have so much that you're really not going to see things repeat themselves, which is awesome. But at the same time, we know having that control of the artist to go through and fine-tune stuff is extremely important, not only for look but also for gameplay. And then on top of that, we'll create tools for the artists on top of that. So now they're actually playing around with the procedurally generated terrain and so on to really give it pull it together as efficiently as possible. Shrike or Shriek, don't know how to pronounce that, sorry. What technological challenges still remain before CIG is comfortable adding a procedural planet mechanic to one of our upcoming patches? I get that question a lot. Right now, we're in the process of incorporating what we have so far in the procedural technology into everything else. When we're proving out the tech and building it up and had Pascal working with guys, we had it kind of in a very controlled area. We kind of needed to pull it away from everything else so we could just focus on it. Now that we've gotten it a bit more mature, now we're pulling it together with everything else. We're seeing really good progress on that, but then we need to see what blows up, what unknown or unforeseen issues have come up to address those, or have come up and then we need to address them. We know we knew there would be some issues already when we put it in, and we've already identified those, and it came true with what we thought, which is good because our logic made sense. So we've already are working on those, and then we'll churn through it. Once we get all that solid and sorted, so it's actually a a good, decent play experience for you guys, then we think, that's when it would be time to hand it over. Um, some of the stuff on the procedurals, it's been interesting for us working on it. There's a build with a couple different procedural planets in there, and you're on one. You're there. You've taken off in your ship. You get up. You fly away. Um, you know, 5 minutes of flying through space later, I see a distant planet. And then another 5 minutes to actually get there to get to that planet. Which was nuts, you just start flying and we're going as fast as we can and we're going, all right, cool, we got this, hey, wait. And we're just kind of sitting there tapping our feet. So that's another thing that we're looking at is you have the distances, but we also need to make sure that it's, it makes sense for the game. I guess you could say that the distances are there and so on. But that's for design and Chris and all those guys to sort out. Droog, and he made note that I'm supposed to pronounce it like that. Cinematics and animation have played a big part in the Wing Commander series, but tend to be quite passive. Will we have a better blend of the player being in the room and simply have animated characters, or is it going to be MGS style, long cutscenes of little interaction? You'll have a good, honest mix of interaction with the cutscenes. You won't have these long, drawn-out cutscenes that are non-interactive all over the place. The cutscenes were designed, written, and shot in a way that give a large amount of different variety in how they play out. Some do take control fully away from the player, but for a very specific reason, if that makes sense. There's also a large amount that are fully interactive. And then there's hybrids that put the player in a defined path, but the player still have some sense of movement and sense of control. So I really do think once these all come together, you're going to get a whole good mix, and it's really going to feel fairly fluid and seamless. We also have added elements to the scenes where they branch, but branch in a very kind of relaxing, casual, sensible way. So the player has some choice, but it's not like, things pause and the AI roams until you push a button. So I think even with those, with the different interaction that's kind of casual and the mix, it's even going to make them feel a bit more fluid. Excitix, X-I-T-I-X, I probably messed that one up. Since the Frankfurt studio is still growing, are there any plans to build a German customer service team there? Or if so, would it be placed in Manchester? Otherwise, which department in Frankfurt will grow in the future? There's been a bit, as you know, there's already a CS team in the UK. I don't know how many people are there. I know there were more people last time I visited recently. All primarily English speaking. I think there's some other languages in there too, but I don't know them off the top of my head. There has been some early discussions, really early, of having native German speakers. Obviously, being here in Germany and interacting with the German fans, although there's a large amount of English that's spoken, things are always more, in my opinion, a little more comfortable in their native language. So, with such a large German community, and I know that the communities are large everywhere, but with such a large German community, that's where we've had those early discussions. That position could be here in Frankfurt, I think, which would make sense, because they could interact directly with people here too if needed. But it could also be in the UK and embedded with the other team. So, yeah, I mean, that's still to be seen. As far as Frankfurt studio and growing, I'd say in most departments we're still growing. We're still looking for a few more people for cutscenes. As an overview, we're helping to drive cutscenes. We have a large portion on design here, on producing weapons, on AI code, and with engine code. With weapons, we're fully sorted out as far as team size goes. And different departments are at a slightly different state or various, right? We're getting pretty close to capacity. As I mentioned briefly, recently on an ATV, we are doing an expansion just so we can build out the rest of the team and everybody can fit here comfortably. But yeah, as a general overview, I mean, most disciplines we're hiring for, whether that's art, whether that's code, QA, etc. But we're doing pretty good filling up with what we need. Also important to point out, I mean, we're not hiring people to hire people. We have a specific plan in place. We have a headcount plan based off of the work that's needed, based off of our dates and so on. So all of the hiring, all the planning, all of the expansion that we do in the building out of teams, it's all based on a very specific growth and schedule that we're doing, right? AI, so Stagulator. Hi, Brian. I'm very curious about where CIG is at with their AI. Any news for us? Nothing extremely new to report this second. I can say we're making good progress. AI is one of the bits that I try to give an update on, and I know it's fairly high level on the ATV every week, but I try to give an idea of what the guys are pushing on and what they're working on. There is, in overall, large amount going on with AI right now, with subsumption system and how we're making sure that things are set up today that are going to be best used for the future, right? We need to take the time, it's in everybody's best interest to build as strong of a foundation as we can on things like AI, so that can set us up to handle things that we want to implement, you know, in the next few months, the next 6 months, even ideas that we have that are, you know, loose on paper that we would want to put in once the game's already out and mature, stuff that we'd still like to push on that we think would be cool for players. So we actually have here recently, it's coming up, not to date this video, but it's going to come up in the next few days, where I think we're going to have 9 different people out here to the Frankfurt office, including Tony from Austin and Chris and Sean Tracy, so on and so on and so on, a good amount of people from the UK, with a large amount of the discussion based on AI. So we know AI is important. We're making huge advancements. We're always adding new bits, but we're also taking the time to make sure, like I said, that we build that foundation as solid as we need to. Corrupt You for Fun 1. Brian, is building the weapons for the game something that gets prioritized and therefore built faster in order to get it into a specific patch over building it over the course of time, and when it's ready, it's put in then? As in a lot of the things that I'm answering, honestly, it's a bit of both. We know what ships and weapons will be released, and we know what new releases they'll be in, or what new patches and so on. So we do our best to line those schedules up, right? You obviously, if we're going to put a ship out, you want to try to get a weapon functioning on it, or as many or all of them if you can. Sometimes the ships move a little faster in production. Sometimes the weapons move a little faster in production. But we do our best we can to line those up to give it the best experience. Internally, we have a good amount of weapons that we're working on. We have 4 full-time weapons artists. We have our lead, and then 3 other guys that are helping him out. So there's stuff that's coming out of them on a daily and weekly basis. Again, making good progress. Floppy Donkey. Considering Squadron 42 will be story-driven, how much, if any, of the procedural world's tech can we expect in the single-player campaign? For that, we're honestly still sorting it out. And I'll try to explain. Since Squadron is primarily linear, and it's got a defined experience, but sometimes it's loose based off players' actions and so on. Procedural planets aren't absolutely necessary, right? Um, at the same time, everything's on the same code base. So we have those there, and we have them functioning, meaning we have the tech functioning the way that it needs to, which it will be. Could we use it so we can pull things together more efficiently? Absolutely. Um, but I don't think it would be something, and I could be wrong, but my guess would be it wouldn't be that when you go back in, you're going to have a different experience or see different terrain. It would just be used to set the defined terrain at that point. Tiffy or Tiffy. Hey Brian Chambers, this has been a question alongside the whole community, at least on Reddit, for a while. With new APIs becoming the standards in the future, DX12 and Vulkan, I wonder what CIG's approach is on this topic. We want a future-proof game which has the best of the very best graphics. In our eyes, this can only be done with early integration of DX12/Vulkan so that you know what the limits are of the new technology and that you can build around that. Guaranteed they were also interested in future-proofing, that the tech directors are setting things up correctly. This one, I actually, because I wanted to get you guys a solid answer. A lot of the tech guys, like I said before, they're really not interested in getting on camera, but they will write stuff up for me if I ask and explain. They totally dig the community. They're just not fans of being on camera. So I asked one of our tech directors, Mr. Carson Wenzel, and he actually wrote me up some stuff. So I'm going to sit here and actually read this. So if I'm not looking at the camera, I am reading it from paper. So his response, we're actively looking into adopting new graphics APIs. As you know, DX12 and Vulkan differ quite significantly from previous API designs such as DX11 and OpenGL 4.5. They try to map very closely to current graphics hardware architecture, as well as provide applications more low-level control of video memory. In order to take advantage, or full advantage of them, we started a massive refactor of the render and 3D engine in order to more efficiently prepare and submit items to be drawn, well beyond the scope of the recent massively instanced rendering optimization done by us. Think of a departure from a monolithic render thread to more lightweight jobs that prepare individual render passes in parallel via the job system. The hope is that this will allow us more flexibility in terms of draw calls in a lot of areas without complicated runtime merging of materials and meshes or tedious offline optimization passes on content creation side, for example, such as character attachments. This refactor will lay the foundation for all future rendering and graphics work. On top of that, we'll be reworking the shader system and resource management to better map those new APIs and take advantage of new features exposed by the new APIs and shader languages. Especially memory management is going to be a fairly complex matter and far more trivial but crucial in order to get the best performance. Don't underestimate the support work video drivers do on DX11 and OpenGL. Additionally, we'll embrace asynchronous compute, taking advantage of the heterogeneous multi-GPU setups. Onboard plus discrete GPU is another possibility that might yield extra gains. That is, instead of alternate frame rendering, each GPU works on different tasks for a given frame. This needs some initial research first, though, to see how it can work and if the performance gains are actually worth the effort that they put into it. In summary, we agree that adopting these APIs is going to be essential moving forward, but at the same time, we want to take our time to get stuff done properly so you'll actually see a benefit over DX11 visually and in terms of performance. So the answer, yes, we're absolutely concerned with future-proofing. I wanted to be able to read that, and although I probably messed up pronunciation a little bit, the guys that are working on stuff, they know their stuff. We want to set this up in the right way that we know it's going to be able to milk everything we can that we get the best performance, that we can support the best hardware, and so on. So the guys are really taking their time and putting their energy and their big brain tech sweat into getting this where it needs to be. Mr. Cole asks, thanks for stepping up the plate yet again to answer our questions. Compared to your early work with animation and motion capture for Roughneck Starship Troopers Chronicles, how has the technology advanced in the last few decades, and are there any drawbacks compared to the earlier methods? Tech's made huge steps since I first started. I mean, tech's made huge steps in the last few years. When I did the work on the initial season of Roughnecks, optical mocap wasn't even really used in production. I think you had some of the larger like film effects companies using it, but I don't think any smaller houses or games were at all. At that point, we had a magnetic system, Flock of Birds, I think it was called. Stage side was limited to 12 by 12, 12 feet by 12 feet. It was supposed to be wireless, but it would send these wireless data packets, and occasionally the data packets would drop, which would make the motion just completely blow up or freeze. So a lot of times we actually had to run tethered. So you had somebody in these funky suits with all these gyros on them. And then even on the software side, there was a lot of scripting to get stuff to work, mapping something, the actual motion to a character. It would take a full day to set up a character and get that running, where now you can do it in a couple clicks. But back in the day when we finished stuff and we looked at it, I mean, we were so proud seeing characters moving in the environment. When I go back and look at those nowadays, you can see the high frequency noise. I kind of cringe. You can see the high frequency noise in the animation. You can see floaty feet. Contact isn't really there where it needs to be. But that was the day, and for the time of what we did, I think it was really cool. Today, you have huge volumes. You're capturing numerous people at once. You're capturing body. You're capturing face. You're capturing fingers. We're recording audio. We're tracking props. Huge volumes if we want to use them. The software also is leaps and leaps and bounds. Almost to a point to say, the kids nowadays have it easy, right? But yeah, it's true. I mean, back in the day, it was a lot more archaic, but it was still incredibly new and exciting back then, just as the new stuff that's coming online now is. So it's cool. Kaji Arkel asks, Uncharted 4 placed the level so high in terms of quality, animation, lighting, level of details, even in large open area, content streaming, ... etc. and on a PS4, a hardware which CR clearly stated in the past that Star Citizen could not run. Does that change the team's mind and the power console can have? And can we expect that you at least reconsider a console release in the long term? On a technical point of view, I mean. Uncharted 4 looks awesome. I think it was the day or so after it came out, we grabbed it and had it here in the studio, and I told the team, hey, let's go in the kitchen and talk to Chris about it and so on. So when I say kitchen, we had a couch in there with a console. So we all went in there and were playing it. They did an awesome job. Looks good. It plays nice. Generally in console development, and I can just say this from experience, the games look nicer the longer the console exists. You understand how to use the hardware better. You understand how to go around or through or above or under the limitations that the hardware gives you. You find new tips and new tricks on how to put things together, manage memory, stream things, so on and so on and so on. So as you can see, if you look historically, even PS2 and so on, late generation PS2 games looked awesome comparatively, right? And it's just because people got more mature in how that they could use the hardware. But with that said, there's still a ceiling. There's still a ceiling on that hardware of what's possible. You have technical limitations. If you apply those same learnings and that same logic to a piece of hardware that has a higher ceiling, in theory, you would be able to produce more or do things better or do things more fluid. It doesn't necessarily mean that it would look better. It was really what you're after, right? If Uncharted 4 looked great and it was based on a certain hardware and we had harder hardware, could you draw more characters on screen? Could you put a little more love into the atmospherics? Could you have more on hair cloth animation? Just all those as examples, right? So yeah, I think the team over there did an awesome job pulling it off. It looks amazing. Yet that doesn't point directly that, you know, that means Star Citizen could run on it, right? As far as, you know, hey, would you consider it in the future? Not even a point really to think about right now or for us to put energy on, because the team's fully focused on delivering Star Citizen and Squadron 42 on PC like we promised, to the community, to the backers, to the fans, and so on. So that's really where all of our energy is. So I'm going to grab a bunch of these, last some, maybe another 10, and answer with one word. I already kind of sorted the ones I could answer with one word. So this will be Brian's fire round. Leonard Sapala, in ATV Weekly Updates, you're well known for saying a lot without actually giving anything away. Thanks, Leonard. Really appreciate that. He also goes on to ask, any updates on VR/head tracking support? Nope. Silo Torn, Brian, can you talk about current plans for spinning motions of planets and moons? Will they have realistic spin or will they all stand still? Realistic. Argorn BH, he had a bunch of questions. This one's question number 5. How is the expansion of the Frankfurt facilities going? And have office space limitation prevented you from hiring new people? Good and nope. Loric Eternis asks, I've been wondering for a very long time, how do you take care of that luxurious hair? Magic. Deathstrike asks, in the first procedural video, it was somewhat easy to recognize where Procedural Planet met the handcrafted landing area. Regarding the blending and hiding of those areas, would it be more of an automatic or manual process? Both. Sower or Saber writes, if a railgun fired from an Idris and Sol, might a prospector hull be breached in Orion? Nope. Elmac asks, are there any innovative technologies or gameplay systems being researched/worked on currently that haven't been heard about yet, but you really need to share with us that will have a major impact on the game if they can be made to work? Yes. The Hound asks, about animations, are the get in and out of pilot seats settled for every seat, or are they meant to evolve? Evolve. And to final it off, Kaji Arkel asks, hey Brian, which shampoo do you use to keep your hair so nice? Magic. Thanks for sitting through this the last 35 minutes. Appreciate it. We at Frankfurt appreciate all the support. Appreciate the support for the game, for all the studios. It's fun talking with you guys and doing this when we have the time. So thanks again. And if I did an okay job, maybe they'll ask me to do it again. Cool. Take care.
Hey guys, thanks for watching 10 for the Chairman. If you guys would like to see more episodes, go here. If you guys would like to subscribe to our YouTube channel and always keep up to date with all our video content, go here. And if you guys would like to watch episodes of Around the Verse, go here please. And I will see you in the verse.